The leather of Jason's designer couch creaked as I shifted my weight, the scent of Claire's ridiculously overpriced vanilla candles filling the air. I watched the multicolored lights of their 10-foot Christmas tree twinkle, each bulb a tiny reminder of the life I financed but was no longer welcome in. "Thought I'd make my famous turkey this year," I said, forcing a smile. "The one with your mom's sage stuffing recipe. Remember how she—" "Dad." Jason cut me off, his voice tight. He wouldn't meet my eyes, instead staring at the marble coffee table I'd helped pick out last spring when Claire decided their old furniture was tacky. "About Christmas. You won't be welcome here this year." The words didn't register at first. There had to be some mistake. "Come again." Jason fidgeted with his wedding band. The platinum one I'd paid for when Claire insisted silver was too cheap. "Claire's parents are flying in from Connecticut. They'd prefer if you weren't here." The room seemed to tilt. "They'd prefer," I repeated slowly, tasting the bitterness of the words. "It's just how they are about holidays," Jason mumbled. "Very traditional. You know how the Wentworths are." I looked around the living room, at the $4,000 silk drapes I'd bought when Claire complained the neighbors could see in, at the Brazilian cherry floors that came from my second mortgage, at the crown molding that had maxed out my last credit card. Every square inch of this McMansion bore the fingerprints of my sacrifice. And now I wasn't good enough to sit at their goddamn table. Where exactly am I supposed to go? I kept my voice dangerously calm. Jason had the decency to look uncomfortable. Maybe Aunt Lydia's? Or we could do a belated Christmas the weekend after. A belated Christmas, I repeated, like the birth of Christ was some dentist appointment that could be rescheduled. I stood abruptly, my knees protesting, years of manual labor and stress taking their toll. "Dad, wait." But I was already at the door, my hand on the polished brass knob that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. "Tell the Wentworths," I said, "Feliz Navidad." The December air hit me like a physical blow as I stepped outside. Behind me, the door clicked shut with finality. The drive home was a blur. My truck's heater blasted lukewarm air, doing nothing to thaw the ice forming in my chest. 5 years. 5 fucking years of bank transfers, drained retirement accounts, and second mortgages. All so my son and his social climbing wife could play house in a neighborhood where I'd never belonged. I pulled into my own cracked driveway, the one I couldn't afford to repair, because every spare cent went to maintaining the facade of wealth. Inside, the silence of my modest home was deafening. The manila folder waited in my desk drawer like a time bomb. I spilled its contents across my kitchen table. Bank statements showing the $2,500 monthly transfers to their mortgage. Loan documents for the $40,000 down payment. Receipts for Claire's essential kitchen remodel, $15,000. Credit card bills for the furniture Jason needed to impress his in-laws. The calculator didn't lie. $178,600.72 over 5 years. My hand shook as I flipped through the papers. This wasn't just money. It was years of my life. The security Elena and I had worked decades to build, all flushed down the toilet of Jason and Claire's ambition. The final straw? A text from Claire last week. "Dennis, we're hosting Christmas dinner for 20. Can you Venmo us $1,000 for catering? The Wentworths are bringing colleagues from the firm." I'd sent the money, of course, like always. My fingers dialed the bank before I'd even made the conscious decision. Cancel all automatic transfers to account ending in 4491. Effective immediately. The phone rang at 7:03 the next morning. Claire's name flashed on the screen like a warning. "Where the hell are you?" she shrieked. My parents had been waiting at baggage claim for 40 minutes. I sipped my coffee, The good Colombian blend I could finally afford now that I wasn't funding their lifestyle. Was I supposed to be somewhere? You were supposed to pick them up at 6:30. Their flight from JFK got in early. Funny, I mused. I don't recall agreeing to chauffeur service, especially not for people who don't want me at Christmas dinner. The silence on the other end was priceless. You can't just... Watch me, I said, and hung up. 3 days later, the Spokane Chronicle ran a front-page lifestyle piece. Local elderly couple stranded in holiday travel nightmare. The article featured a tearful quote from Richard Wentworth. We waited in the freezing cold for hours while our ride never showed. At our age, this kind of neglect is dangerous. The kicker? A photo of me from last year's company picnic, captioned, Dennis Callahan, 64, could not be reached for comment. I nearly choked on my coffee. Freezing cold? It had been 48 degrees and sunny. And elderly? Richard was a 62-year-old hedge fund manager who ran marathons. But the real gem? The byline, Patricia Morrison. The same Patricia Morrison who, according to LinkedIn, was college roommates with Claire's sister. They'd just declared war, and they had no idea who they were dealing with. December 24th. Their house glowed like a Thomas Kincaid painting, every window ablaze with light. A steady stream of BMWs and Lexuses filled the circular driveway, Spokane's elite arriving for the Wentworth-Callahan Christmas extravaganza. I parked down the block and waited until 7:37 p.m., just as the main course would be served. The front door was unlocked. Of course it was. This was Kendall Yards, where the help knew their place. I stepped inside, the murmur of conversation and clinking silverware guided me to the dining room. 20 faces turned as one when I cleared my throat. Evening, everyone, I said, hefting my briefcase. Sorry I'm late. Claire's porcelain complexion turned sheet white. Dennis, what are you? Brought gifts, I announced cheerfully, distributing thick manila envelopes down the table like some demented Santa. One for each of you. Inside, annotated bank statements, highlighted in yellow, blow-ups of Claire's text messages. If we invite Dennis, my parents will die of embarrassment. The newspaper article with my handwritten corrections in red pen. Photos of their luxury vacations, all taken during months I'd covered their mortgage. The room erupted. Asterisk, you took $178,000 from your father-in-law. Asterisk, gasped Martha Whitmore, the mayor's wife. Richard, you told us he abandoned you in a blizzard. Jason looked like he might vomit. Claire started crying. Real tears this time, not the performative ones she used to manipulate Jason. Richard Wentworth stood, his face purple with rage. This is slander. I'll sue. Please do, I smiled. Discovery will be fascinating, especially when the court subpoenas your daughter's Venmo records. I turned to leave, pausing at the archway. Merry Christmas, everyone. Don't bother returning the envelopes. I made copies. The certified letter arrived on March 3rd. Notice of default. $8,422.17 past due. Foreclosure proceedings to commence in 30 days. Jason showed up at my door that night, unshaven, reeking of cheap whiskey. Dad, we're going to lose the house. I poured 2 fingers of Macallan 18, the bottle I bought myself after canceling their payments. I know. Claire's parents won't help. The bank won't refinance. We're ruined. I studied my son, the boy I'd taught to ride a bike, the man who'd watched silently as his in-laws treated me like hired help. You'll survive, I said. People do it every day. They get jobs. They live within their means. You don't understand. Claire's pregnant. The glass froze halfway in my lips. How far along? For months. I did the math. Christmas Eve. The night his world came crashing down. "Congratulations," I said finally. "You'll make a great father." His face crumpled. "Aren't you going to help us?" I walked to the mantel, where Elena's photo smiled eternally from its silver frame. "I already did, Jason. For 5 years." The silence stretched between us, filled with all the things we'd never say. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I know," I said, "but sorry doesn't unspend $178,000. Tonight, snow falls softly outside Aunt Lydia's cozy farmhouse. The scent of tamales and pine fills the air as my great-nephews tear into presents. My phone buzzes. Another unanswered text from Jason. Lydia hands me a mug of spiked cocoa. "You okay?" I watch the fire crackle, thinking of foreclosures and karmic justice. Never better. Somewhere across town, in a cramped apartment, Jason and Claire are learning the true meaning of Christmas. That family isn't a transaction and money can't buy love. But dignity? That's priceless.